Hello guys, welcome back to another video, and well, today we have some things to talk about. Well, yesterday there was a bunch of dinosaur news released. Not only did we get the trailer for Primitive War, well at least the second trailer, which showed a lot more stuff, which is what we're going to be talking about today, but we also got some Hammond Collection figures revealed, alongside, I believe we got Paddock the Titan revealed for Jurassic World Evolution, and I think that's mostly it, but yeah, we got a lot of things confirmed and revealed yesterday, and I didn't get most of it done. I was kind of busy yesterday. I did get some stuff done, so yeah. Anyways, today we're going to be talking about the Primitive War trailer somewhat. Unlike some of my other videos where I typically do a trailer breakdown or something, today we're really going to be talking about mainly the creatures. I'll explain why in a second, but yeah. Anyways, today we're talking about Primitive War. So starting off, here is just basically every single creature from the Primitive War books, except for the bottom two, which are just two creatures from the trailer that I just put in the fill it in just to make this thing complete. But anyway, this is basically all the creatures minus those bottom two. And yeah, I do want to mention I know almost nothing about Primitive War. I do know some stuff, but I don't know much. I don't know much about the creatures either. The only one, I did look on the wiki a little bit, but the only thing I really completely read through is the quaquatas, the page of the quaquatas. Everything else, I don't know really anything else about Primitive War. So if I get any information wrong or just don't know something, that's why I apologize. Please correct me in the comments if I say anything wrong, or if I even missed the creature, or say something inaccurate about a creature, because again, most things about the creatures I know, I'm basing off of what I've seen in the trailer, plus what I've seen in concept art. That is pretty much it. That is mostly what I've seen for Primitive War. I don't really know the story. I know it's basically dinosaurs in the Vietnam War. That's pretty much it. That is literally it. So, yeah, again, I apologize if I get anything wrong. But I am going to just go through these creatures. Once we get through this, I will talk about all the creatures that didn't appear in here, and even the creatures that did appear, just my thoughts on each one. But anyways, jumping straight into it, first creature, Deinonychus, or at least I believe it's Deinonychus. Since there are 3 dromaeosaurs in the Primitive War books, Deinonychus, Dromaeosaurus, and Utahraptor. And, I mean, yeah, no, did I say Dromaeosaurus? I meant to say Deinonychus, Deinonychus, and Utahraptor. This very well could also be Deinonychus, but I believe that it is the Deinonychus, just based off the size. I believe Deinonychus is a bit smaller. So, yeah. Anyways, just again, basing off at least a lot of the concept art I see for Deinonychus, it's black in color, and I think it actually swapped colors with Utahraptor, but we'll talk about it in a second. In the actual trailer, though, we'll talk about that in the next few slides more, but the colorations are very vibrant. Starting off, here's a clip of the characters climbing up a tree while I believe, again, I'm just going to call them Deinonychus, are circling around the base of the tree. There's another one with 1 or 2 Deinonychus dragging a person. And there's also the scene with the guy about to fight him off. Generally, these guys seem in the trailer to be depicted as not the most threatening, but at the same time very dangerous, especially since in a lot of scenes they're shown to be in large numbers. But generally, compared to a lot of other creatures, they're not as dangerous, despite them being able to easily kill a person. Well, at least easy enough that you could definitely survive an attack by one of them, but multiple, definitely going to be unlikely. Here's another scene of it on top of a person. This is probably the best shot we get of them. And then we also have this Dromaeosaur, which I don't know if this is also the Deinonychus. It might actually be the Spinosaurus, or it could just be something else. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe it is the Deinonychus. Anyways, I'm just going to call him Wither Foxy, so yeah. That is pretty much it for the Deinonychus. I generally think that they were done pretty well, especially if they are Deinonychus. And I think I honestly think they're going to be pretty cool in the actual movie. I'd probably give them a 8 out of 10, maybe even a 9. Next, we have so many hydrosaurs. There's 3 different hydrosaurs in the show, and both of them have male and female variants. So first there's this one, which you have a darker brown color scheme and kind of whiter stripes. Here's a little bit of a closer look of them. They also, again, there's kind of more a reddish hint towards the front and bluish tint towards the back, and they also have crest, at least some of them. I also forgot to mention there's female variants, but you can't really see, but we'll talk about it in a second, that are more of just a plain brown color. Kind of similar to an okapi, I guess. Now we have these 2 hadrosaurs. We have one, which is, well, actually both of them are yellow, but one of them, I believe, is an Amargasaurus. We'll talk about that more in a second. It has white stripes on its tail and kind of a brown pattern down its side. While on the other hand, there are the, also I forgot to mention for the ones I believe are Amargasaurus, they have shorter, more rounded crest. While there's other ones that look actually pretty similar to the other hadrosaur, the dark brown one, except they seem to have less of a tall back. They kind of seem to have more of a like their backs are not as tall, and also just again the crest look taller and again more similar to the other ones, and they also just have plain brown stripes, and they are not a female variant. I can tell because the Edmontosaurus seem to have the female variants having more of like a white stripe going down the side and more brown speckling, which you can kind of see it in the on the right of the top right image, but you can see the male variant over on the left with just more white stripes, while the other hadrosaur, I believe the male and female both have the same pattern. Same patterns, but just one doesn't have a crest. I believe so, at least from what I can tell. Also, their snout just seems more narrow and doesn't have as wide of a beak. So yeah, anyways. First we have the ones that I believe are Edmontosaurus, possibly Anectons, though possibly also Regalis since they have the crest. There's no evidence for Anectons, though I guess it's not impossible. And it also looks very similar to this piece of paleo art that I see all the time. And I don't think this is a model for primitive war, but the model does look very similar. Not exactly the same, but very similar. That's why I do believe that this is an Edmontosaurus partially as well. But generally, I think this guy looks great, though I believe its posture might be a little bit too hunched down, but that might be because the animal is drinking. Can't tell for sure, though. Honestly, these things look cool. I hope they do something interesting in the actual film. Next, we have the dark brown hadrosaur, which I cannot tell for sure, but I'm guessing it's either Centausaurus or Minquaria. Though there is one thing that kind of messes this up, is that the female doesn't have a crest, and I believe both Minquaria and Centausaurus. Okay, I've been saying Minquaria this whole time, but I meant to say Magnapolia, which is completely different. Minquaria is one of the smallest hadrosaurs, and Magnapolia is one of the largest. But anyways, Magnapolia I believe is a Lambeosaur, and I believe Lambeosaurs, both male and female, both have crests. While this would more likely be some sort of well, maybe not Lambeosaur, but Saurolophine, I believe. So I'm honestly changing my answer to possibly even being Barsbaldia or something, or even Chantungosaurus. Who knows? But at the same time, maybe they just decided to make no crest for the other variant. Again, it could be Centausaurus, could be Magnapolia, could be Barsbaldia, really could be anything. I'm not so certain what this is, or what the other one is, which again, this could also be Centausaurus, or it could just be like Edmontosaurus, but looking different. Maybe it's supposed to be like Regalis, or this is supposed to be Anectons. Though again, I think the snout looks different, so maybe this one actually is a type of Lambeosaurin. So yeah, I honestly don't really know. Yeah, also the brown hadrosaurs, I can't tell for sure, but they do look like their mouths might be a little bit more broad, so maybe those are actually Barsbaldia or something. Who knows? Again, maybe this like lighter brown variant is, this yellowy kind of variant that's not the Edmontosaurus is like a hybrid between the two, maybe, since they're all living together. Maybe they bred and made different variants. Honestly, I really do not know. What are your guys' thoughts on these hadrosaurs? They really could be anything, but I'm just guessing that one's Edmontosaurus, then the other two could be anything from Centausaurus, Magnapolia, or Barsbaldia, or even Corythosaurus or something like that. I have no clue. Anyways, moving on to the next creature. Quetzalcoatlus. Now, the Quetzalcoatlus, again, this is the only one I really read up on, and if again, I don't know much about primitive lore, world lore, but from what I've heard, these things are absolute nightmare fuel. Even more horrifying than the real-life animal, which, if you didn't know, is already, like, one of the most terrifying creatures that ever exist, so it's that times 2, so yeah. Another thing, I did hear people saying that they, originally they were supposed to have the long prehensile tails like the original book, though they got changed, and I find that interesting, because at least from what I heard in the actual original book, the Quetzalcoatlus basically use their tongues as basically an extra limb. They usually impale things with their beaks and then use their tongues to actually grab onto and dismember things to eat. So yeah, I believe that, okay, at least from what I heard, they lived in groups. One would usually impale a smaller animal, and then pretty much the others would just use their tongues to rip their limbs off and eat them. Yeah, absolutely horrifying. So yeah, I think that they got rid of that, so it's interesting to see if they're just going to be more like regular Asdarchids, which I'm not complaining. We haven't gotten a good Asdarchid in anything except for like Dino Dana the movie, so yeah, Rebirth kind of failed on that. I mean, it almost did. Swallowed a guy, that was pretty nice, but outside of that, it didn't really act like an Asdarchid. While in Primitive War, it does seem like they're going to be acting more like Asdarchids, while still doubling as a aerial threat, which is how an Asdarchid probably should be handled. Another thing is that this thing's design looked very similar to the Flying Monsters 3D Quetzalcoatlus. I did actually, now actually looking at them side by side, they do have quite a few differences, with the Flying Monsters one having a much more slender build to it, and also having a big crest on its head instead of like the more regular kind of Asdarchid crest, kind of more like a comb, I guess I'd explain it, but they are still very similar. And again, from what I can tell in the original books, they are more of like a darker color with a yellow beak and yellow crest. and some red throat pouch, while on the other hand, the actual one in the film looks more of a golden brown color. So I do think they changed that up a bit. I think it would have been a little bit more interesting if they were more similar to the book, but seeing their design, I think they do still look very nice. I do wish that they were a little bit more slender, because they do look kind of bulky. They look a little bit awkward when they're standing, but not quite in as dark a way. They kind of look too compact, I guess. Look like they're standing up a little bit too upright. I don't know exactly how to explain it. There's just something that looks a little bit off about these guys, but they still do look absolutely amazing. Another thing I remember, at least here on the wiki, that they didn't have, basically they had pycnofibers except on like their actual, except on the like wing finger, or at least like the arms, where they have more of like a leathery skin, which actually looking at this design, it seems that they did adapt that. So yeah, it's pretty nice to see. The movie designs are kind of a mix between the original designs plus just more paleo accurate, though there is a few designs where instead of doing a mix of the book plus paleo accurate, they do a book paleo accurate and, well, Jurassic. We'll get to that in a second, but yeah, generally I do think the Quetzalcoatlus looks great, and honestly cannot wait to see these things in the film. Here's another frame of it actually standing up towards a guy. It seems that they hunted open areas, so this means we'll actually get to see these guys probably run person down. We also do see them in the air. I didn't get all the scenes of them flying in the air, because there were some of like people in actual helicopters being attacked by these things. But yeah, again, I definitely recommend go watch the trailer. I'll link that in the description. But anyways. Next, we have Utahraptor, which was pretty much the first dinosaur we got a good look at. This is only the second trailer for Primitive War, and I do want to mention that so far they've been doing a great job of not making the same mistakes as Rebirth by basically just revealing everything in the trailers. We don't see much in the trailers, but we do see enough to get to actually see the dinosaurs in Utahraptor. At least in the first trailer, we got some minor glimpses of creatures, but not enough to really look at them and see what they looked like. Utahraptor was the only exception, and even then, it wasn't even too much of a good look. And man, these things are gloriously feathered and look absolutely amazing. I love the way these things look. At some angles, admittedly, the faces do look a little bit goofy, though at some other angles, they actually look very intimidating and have just a certain look to them that is absolutely horrifying. The buck's teeth do work in some scenes. Some scenes I do admit they look a bit goofy though. But honestly, Jurassic franchise, take notes. Gareth Edwards, what the heck were you talking about? Feathered dinosaurs can be absolutely horrifying, and Primitive War is definitely willing to show that. And man, these Utahraptors are great. You know what? Primitive War, glad you got Utahraptor. The Jurassic franchise doesn't deserve it after the crimes they've committed recently. Anyways, yeah, these Utahraptors look, again, absolutely amazing. Anyways, I forgot to mention one more thing I do want to mention. I was about to go to the next slide, but a lot of the concept art I see for these things are in a green color, and I believe in the original book they were more of a green or a little bit more like vibrant color. But it seems that in the Primitive War movie they decided to swap the colors with the Deinonychus somewhat, because the Deinonychus seemed to be more of a black color, or at least, I mean, the Deinonychus were more of like a darker color in the actual book. Now it seems that that's the colors they put on the Utahraptor, and they put the more green color on the Deinonychus. No, not quite. They just at least put the more vibrant colors over there. Don't know if that's a complete swap, because there's another dinosaur that we'll get to in a little bit that they seem to have also removed the greens from, though I don't think they really swapped it. So, yeah. Anyways, I think that Utahraptor looks amazing. Just looking at some of the scenes, like this scene, I believe it breaking into some glass, honestly looking absolutely amazing. Also, I think it's just the lighting, but it looks like it has blue accents on it, but I think that is just the lighting. We have it in with the fire, which again, I know very few things about Primitive War, but one thing I do know is that this raptor's name is Cyclops, just because it got stabbed in the eye and only has one eye now, so, yeah. Again, here's the Utahraptor again, and these feathers look absolutely stunning. I've seen it jumping at a person. Again, these are all the scenes I'm just showing, but there are some more. Some of them more minor, with them like hidden in the dark where you can barely see them. I mainly just got the scenes in which you can see them. But man, these things are absolutely okay, I don't know how I so badly mispronounced intimidating and honestly horrifying. And again, despite the feathers, they are still horrifying. In fact, I'd say they aid in this thing's design. Just because it's feathered doesn't mean it's not scary. And yes, I am going to be trashing on Rebirth in this video, just like I do in like almost every video. So anyways, next we have Triceratops. And this is probably the first creature so far that in which I'm a little bit questionable with the design, though I am going to give it benefit of the doubt just because we can't see it too well. A lot of the concept art I see has it actually pretty paleo accurate with the quills and everything. Which, again, quills are not 100% known for Triceratops, but it is very much possible, and I personally think it always makes them look more intimidating, with the long, exaggerated horns and the more accurate head shape. Now, with the actual one we see in the trailer, I think that these ones do resemble the Jurassic Park ones a bit too much, though, again, I am going to give it benefit of the doubt because we can barely see them. Again, just looking at the two images on the bottom, I have the concept art, and then the other three are actual images of it from the trailer. Again, we can't see it too well. And, yeah, I think it would have been way cool if it looked more similar to this. But from what I can see, I mean, if we're going on the one on the right with the darker color scheme, I think that one looks pretty cool. If it had longer horns and maybe some quills, that'd be pretty much perfect. Though the brown one, which I'm assuming is a female variant, to me looks off. I think it's because the tail's too long, and then I think it's really just the tail that's really throwing them off, because it's way too long for a Ceratopsian. But the rest of the design could be good. I think just, again, I think we need to see this one way more. But just looking right here, it kind of looks a bit generic and too much like a Jurassic Park Triceratops. Though, again, I think it would have been cool if they would have made the horns a little bit longer, more like sharp and elaborate, and also would have given it quills, but yeah. Anyways, I do think that this Triceratops looks nice, at least if we're going off the black, like the darker colored one. And yeah, again, I just really need to see this design more, so I won't say anything really too much on it. But again, we have scenes of it charging at people, and that's pretty much it. Just scenes we've only had that one scene of it charging towards a group of people, plus the scene of it drinking at the watering hole with other dinosaurs. Now we have the creature I probably have the biggest issue with. This freak of nature. Well, not even a freak of nature. Unlike Rebirth Titanosaurus, which is a freak of nature, this is a ripoff of the Jurassic World Apatosaurus, which is, an uninspiring, kind of lifeless and boring, and probably one of the most boring and dull creatures in the Jurassic franchise. I'd say definitely up there for one of the worst. Is it as bad or worse than the Rebirth Titanosaurus? I cannot confirm or deny that, but anyways, the only creature, there's only two sauropods in Primitive War from what I can find. One of them is also in this film, and also is a very unique sauropod, so I know for a fact it isn't this. But I know there's only one other one it could possibly be, assuming if it is a species from the book. Giraffatitan. And if this is Giraffatitan, this is probably the worst Giraffatitan model known to man. At least it's a valid genus, and then they're also using a design of another valid genus to make it. It's still horrible, but hey, at least it's not dubious. Yeah, it's not helping much, but still, again, this could be just a Apatosaurus, but even if it is an Apatosaurus, the whole entire posture of it is just completely wrong. It's more like a Brachiosaurus or a Giraffatitan. So again, I am guessing this is Giraffatitan, and man, I'm very disappointed in this design. Honestly, just think it looks horrible. The Jurassic Apatosaurus I always really hated, since it just looked like outdated sauropod with elephant skin wrapped around it, and that is absolutely horrible depiction of a sauropod. And I'm very disappointed in the Primitive War design. If they really needed to base one off of the Jurassic design, why not the Quetzalcoatlus? Not the Rebirth one, but the Dominion Quetz. But for Giraffatitan, I feel like this could have been a really cool creature, but yeah, this is probably the worst creature in the film so far. And there are some other ones, well actually I think there's only one more that I say, well maybe a few more that kind of suffer from being partially based off Jurassic designs. I think one of them it works for, and the other one, I also say I'm not a big fan of it and really think they shouldn't have done it, but I think it still at least looks good. This, on the other hand, it doesn't. This is just horrible and a big waste of opportunity. Though, from what I've also seen, Giraffatitan doesn't appear in this first book. From what I've seen, there's 2 or 3 books, I think. I can't tell. There's one called Primitive War 1 and then one called Primitive War 2. And then there's another one which I can't remember what it's called, but I don't know if that is like Primitive War 3 or if it's its own thing, just doesn't have a number in the title. I have no idea, but from what I can tell, Giraffatitan appears in Primitive War 2, while most of the dinosaurs in this film seem to be from Primitive War 1. At least most of them. I don't think all of them. And if that's the case, maybe this isn't Giraffatitan. Maybe this is just supposed to be some sort of random sauropod that will either get no appearance or they will mention what it is. And even then, I still think it's horrible, but at least maybe we could have Giraffatitan saved. So, yeah, I think, at least also from what I can tell, the second Primitive War 2 takes place in Africa, which would actually also make a lot of sense why Giraffatitan appears there. Also, the image I'm using for the background of this video is actually concept art for it with Amargasaurus, which unfortunately doesn't appear in this film, though would love to see in a future installment, and Giraffatitan. So, yeah, again, not gonna hold on this one too much, but we do need to see this more. But if this is supposed to be the Giraffatitan, absolutely horrible. This is probably the only design in the film I'd say is actually disappointing, and probably on par, if not worse, than some of the worst Rebirth designs and Jurassic designs in general. Yeah, this is just not good. Even if it isn't Giraffatitan, like a Apatosaurus or something, it's still horrible. And honestly, this is probably one of the worst creatures, just a copy from the Jurassic franchise. So, yeah. Next we have the next sauropod, which you can see is very clearly Amargasaurus. We only see this in the scene at the watering hole. And I believe this is one I couldn't find much concept art on. The bottom two images are concept art. The one on the left is just a reconstruction of paleo art of the animal, and then the one on the right top actually is the one that is the actual one in the film. And I couldn't find much on like a consistent color scheme that's mentioned. I don't know if it has a color scheme really specifically mentioned in the books, or really just how much of its appearance or anything really. I just, again, found a few concept art and they have some vague things that are similar. I think I heard some things about it being bioluminescent, at least the neck skin. But again, I don't really know much about this thing. But based on the concept art, I think there's one thing that it does do that I think it really should have changed. There's like two things I don't like about this design. The tail being too short. I feel like it's a lot like a ceratopsian tail, which is very bad for a sauropod, but I think the tail should have been longer and more whip-like. And then also, I wish it had a little bit more color. I think the yellow works, though. I wish the patterns at least extended a little bit further. Outside of that, this Amargasaurus looks really good, and honestly can't wait to see it. Though, again, this is another one I definitely need to see more before really making much of an opinion on. But, yeah. Anyways, just wanted to show the two river scene, like the river scene where you can go down the river. We have the two different hydrosaurs. We have the Triceratops, the not-so-good sauropod, and Amargasaurus. Generally, that is pretty much it. Though, there is one more creature that's also kind of shown in the river scene, but we'll get to that. We're saving that for later. Now we have the Tyrannosaurus Rex itself, which, starting off here, you can kind of see. Again, the body looks pretty good. We kind of saw glimpses of it in the trailer, but we didn't really see its face or anything, or really even most of its body. But, yeah, we see this thing. We have it here in another scene. Generally, I think it looks really cool. I think it has great patterns. The body looks pretty good. Has like a little tuft of feathers on the back of its head, which from what I can see, at least based off concept art and stuff, the T-Rex had more of a green color scheme there and also had way more feathers. But again, right before it turns around, then it turns its head and it's the Jurassic World T-Rex head. Yeah, that's my big issue with the Primitive War T-Rex. It's just the Jurassic World T-Rex head. And I kind of really wanted these dinosaurs to be different, since I feel like not only if they use the Jurassic designs, it's kind of losing its own identity of what it is and just being lumped into Jurassic, but also it's kind of just like, oh, okay, this film is a knockoff Jurassic film, which I kind of don't want this film to be. I want it to be like basically just like a superior to the Jurassic franchise, especially nowadays, but definitely wanted it to kind of be different. I think this design was almost there, and then they gave it the Jurassic Park T-Rex head. Now, don't get me wrong, the design doesn't look bad per se. I think the T-Rex head still looks cool. I think the whole design still looks really good and really cool. I just really wish the head was different, which we'll get to that more in a second. I'm going to go through the rest of its scenes. So we have a scene of it charging through the forest, which again, very much, the T-Rex head especially here actually works really well and looks really cool. Again, I just kind of have more of an issue with it being the Jurassic Park T-Rex head, and it could have been something more unique. But again, the patterns look really cool, kind of like the Trespasser Albertosaurus. Next, we have another scene of it eating a person. Again, very much looks like the Jurassic T-Rex. A scene which I don't think, I barely even noticed until I was slowing down the trailer to actually find it. There is a scene of the T-Rex swimming, which is another thing. This film already enough is going to be compared to a Jurassic film, and it already has to compete with like the only and the biggest dinosaur franchise, really, I'd say. Well, mainstream dinosaur franchise, and yeah, the Rebirth River Raft scene is probably one of the best scenes, so it's going to be hard to compete, especially with a T-Rex that kind of just looks like a not quite the same version of the Rebirth Rex. So, yeah, though I think this river scene could be pretty interesting. I wonder if it is going to interact with Spinosaurus, since none of the Rebirth dinosaurs interacted with anyone. Like, none of the Rebirth dinosaurs interacted with any other dinosaur. I think, like, the mutants, actually just the dragon. The dragon interacted with the Velociraptor, and that's, like, the extent of creatures interacting with each other. Would be interesting to see, though, of the, if Primitive War has, like, a T-Rex versus Spinosaurus fight rematch. And since it's in the water, I could definitely see the, Spinosaurus possibly winning that one, since, again, real-life T-Rex would probably win, though in the water, the tables may have been turned. Who knows? Anyways, here's another look at the body. It looks really cool. I think the wrinkly texture kind of works. It actually looks kind of paleo-accurate with the, texturing. Again, it's just the Jurassic Park T-Rex head. And then last but not least, this is probably the coolest scene with the Jurassic T-Rex head. I think this is really cool. And honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing a T-Rex in the Jurassic franchise that looks like this, though in this film I was just really hoping for something different. Though again, at least unlike the Apatosaurus or Giraffatitan, whatever the heck that thing is, it doesn't look bad. I think the design actually looks good for the T-Rex, just really wish it was something different. And again, Here's just some images of T-Rexes. On the bottom, you can see one variant of the concept art. Actually, most of the concept art I see for the T-Rex actually give it more feathers than this, which is inaccurate, so that's what I'm assuming. They got rid of most of them and kind of just kept the tuft on the top of its head. And also, they changed the color to more of a brown color instead of a brighter green, which I actually kind of agree with, because at least in the concept art I saw, it was almost completely green with little pattern. And I think some greens could have been brought into this design as well and just give it more colors and patterns on top of that as well. But yeah, I'm not too fussed with this color changing on this one. And a head that I think would have worked a little bit better is something similar to T-Rex, that documentary, which I have no idea if it's ever going to release on like streaming. I think it released in theaters and some museums, but I'm getting off track. Anyways, again, I am T-Rex. T-Rex's head actually, I think, has a unique look to it. It vaguely has a bit of the Jurassic Rex kind of in like the eyebrow bridge, but even then not really. It's kind of just a really cool paleo-accurate T-Rex head that I think would have fit really well on this body, and I kind of wish the T-Rex would have looked like this. Though yeah, this, as of now, the actual T-Rex we got is basically just Jurassic T-Rex but paleo-accurate, and again, I don't think it looks bad. I think it still kind of works for the design, though just kind of wish it was different. Though, as much as I'm saying I don't like the Jurassic Park T-Rex, that's not to say I don't like this design. I think it looks really good. Anyways, to leave on a less sour note, let's go to Spinosaurus. And this one also has the head of a Jurassic dinosaur kind of, but in this case, it actually works because it looks really good. And I think it doesn't just make it automatically look like the Jurassic T-Rex. I mean the Jurassic Spino. So yeah, taking a closer look at these, there's two different Spinosaurus models it seems. One with a more paleo-accurate Spinosaurus head, and one with a head that looks very similar to the Jurassic Park 3 Spinosaurus, though maybe a bit more accurate. And this is everything the Rebirth Spinosaurus should have been, especially the one with the more JP3 head. Also, I don't know how they're going to explain this or why they have two different heads completely. Maybe it's supposed to be male and female variants. I think this design is perfect. Every issue with the Rebirth design is basically fixed except for the color. I still don't understand why a lot of more recent Spinosaurus depictions, this one, the Rebirth one, and the Walking with Dinosaurs one, lack any color. They're all kind of just a brown color scheme, and that is very disappointing. Though, I don't think, again, Spinosaurus is one of the more flashy dinosaurs, so I think, again, the T-Rex does have quite a bit colored, despite it not being like a brighter color. I think it would have been nice to add those brighter colors onto the Spinosaurus, even if it's just in the sail. And maybe even give the body more of base the body on like a caiman when it comes to the colorations, with more like darker black and brown, and then maybe give a nice flash of color on its sail. Honestly, I think that would have been really cool. But that being said, this is just the best Spinosaurus. Unlike the Rebirth Spinosaurus, again, the head actually resembles the animal. The body's not too bulky, it's actually like stretched out properly. And also, again, the thing is just not, well, I don't know how to say this, but the Rebirth Spinosaurus looks overweight. Well, this one doesn't. This one looks like a healthy weighted Spinosaurus and just looks good. Again, I don't have an image of it here, but in the original trailer, we did get a decent look at this thing's head as it lunged out of the water. And honestly, it looks amazing. Can't wait to see this thing more. Outside of the color scheme, that's like, actually the color scheme is literally the only issue I have with this. Outside of that, this thing is literal perfection. Though, we're going to need to see how it does in the film to see if it can outdo the best paleo-accurate Spinosaurus ever to appear in the movie, the Jurassic World. Oh wait, never mind, that's not it. The Dino Day of the movie Spino. That thing is peak perfection, and it's going to have to do a lot to dethrone that Spinosaurus depiction. But hey, the second best is not too bad. Second best is definitely not too bad, and hey, maybe it'll even take the crown. Anyways, that is pretty much all I have to say for each one of these designs. Primitive War, again, I'm not the biggest fan of them kind of just reusing Jurassic designs. And I'm not going to lie, if they did have to do that, at least they could have done it with the quaquatas instead of the Rex, but, well, not the Rebirth, but the Dominion quaquatas. But anyways, again, most of the designs I think look great. I'm not going to comment too much on the plot, since again, I don't know enough about Primitive War to say if this is like a really good adaptation of it. But what I can say is that the plot does look pretty decent, and from these first two trailers, even with the few things I have issues with, I'd say there are more minor nitpicks, and I honestly love most of the dinosaur designs. This actual film looks really good, and honestly would love to see future installments, and hopefully, I really hope this film does really well. In fact, I want to do better than Rebirth. Not only to get the Jurassic franchise to actually care about what they are even working on, since it's very evident that they don't, but also to support and like kind of promote other companies to make more dinosaur films. Honestly, I would love to see more dinosaur films, especially done well, not poorly made or bad ones, but really good dinosaur films. Honestly, I'd say that this has very good potential. I have a lot of hope in this film. Very good potential not only to be basically Rebirth but better, but also be better than most of the modern Jurassic films. The only other dinosaur mainstream film I'd kind of say does that, that's not like an actual cartoon film, but actually as like live action dinosaurs. Dino Dana the movie. I feel like that film really encapsulated what the franchise is about, and Primitive War is far from that, like very far from that. Literally just look up Primitive War concept art and you'll see what I'm talking about in about 2 seconds. But yeah, very different from the Dino Kids franchise, but yeah, Primitive War, honestly, I'm really hoping to do well, and honestly would love to see a sequel since the sequel has a few, Primitive War 2 has a few creatures that I'm more fond of than you would expect. You know, Giraffatitan. As much as I don't say it's one of my favorite theropods, I'm pretty sure it is just because I get so hyped whenever I see one appearing anywhere. And also, my boy Carnotaurus, so, yeah. Anyways, I did want to go over every creature, even the ones that didn't appear. I'm not going to go too much over the ones that we already saw in the trailer, but, like Deinonychus, I'm pretty much just going to skip over that, but Utahraptor, from what I can tell, doesn't have too much of a role, just kind of like a small herbivore. I could definitely see this one appearing in this film. Could be really cool. Caprasuchus was one that I actually kind of hope is in this film, because I know I'm comparing it to Rebirth a lot, but I know Rebirth had some scenes, especially with that weird snake thing where they're trekking through the water. I think Caprasuchus could make a great issue for characters to encounter whenever they're going through more swampy areas that couldn't fit larger creatures. And plus, you can give all the ARC players PTSD. This would be great. Honestly, Caprasuchus is just a horrifying animal, and from what I can see in the actual book, this thing was an absolute nightmare. Caprasuchus is a nightmare in ARC. It's a nightmare everywhere. It would be amazing to see. And actually, I really hope it does make it in this film. Next we have Amargasaurus, which not only has like very little, almost no concept art, but also it's a dromaeosaur I didn't even bother mentioning because it's very clear none of these are Microraptor. And yeah, I think it could be a cool like background animal, but it doesn't really have much to do. Quetzalcoatlus I'm also going to skip, but definitely think that the Quetzalcoatlus design could be a bit better. Though again, I think it could be used very well, and I hope it works like it actually acts like an Asdarkid. Because again, an issue I have with Asdarkids, at least in a lot of media, especially Jurassic franchise, they don't use him as an Asdarkid and just use it as a big scary flying animal, which you may be wondering, isn't that just what an Asdarkid is? And in a sense, yeah it is, and I think it can double as that very well, but on its own, like just as have it being that is a big waste of opportunity, since these things are absolutely massive murder storks. They literally can basically fly around, find you from pretty much anywhere, land on the ground and literally chase you down, impale you with their beak. They are absolute nightmare fuel. And I feel almost nothing uses them as that. And Primitive War, I think, is literally the perfect opportunity for that, especially with how they're used in the actual story. So, yeah, I actually think the prehensile tongue is very interesting, and I, on one hand, kind of happy they didn't include it since it would be kind of giving people the wrong idea, kind of like the Dilophosaurus. But at the same time, I feel like it was kind of something really interesting and unique used in the actual books, so I'm kind of split on that. What are your thoughts on that? Anyway, Stygimoloch, I could definitely see getting replaced with Pachycephalosaurus since they're both actually in the franchise. And Stygimoloch might be synonymous with Pachycephalosaurus. Who knows? Maybe we could just have one as the juvenile. Next we have Psittacosaurus, would also be really cool just to see. Triceratops, I already made my thoughts on that clear. T-Rex, same thing. Same for Utahraptor. Amargasaurus, again, not going to say much because I'm not even sure much about it in the actual books, let alone in this film since we don't see it much. Cryolophosaurus, I think, would be very interesting to see. I think it'd be cool to see, again, for installments, I think, like 4 film ideas I have, including this one. After that, maybe a one based in Africa, at least from what I've seen in the Primitive War 2, at least, I think. Deinonychus, Giraffatitan, and several other animals appear there. Then I'm thinking of, like, maybe one in a more polar environment with a Utahraptor, Cryolophosaurus, and maybe Therizinosaurus we can stick there, plus some other dinosaurs from the books, plus maybe even some new ones there. And then one set in more of a arid deserty area, which I will talk about that one later. That one kind of has a bunch of creatures that I kind of think would be cool to include, but we'll get to that later. Cryolophosaurus would definitely be cool to see. Parasaurolophus, I'm surprised didn't get included since we have like 3 different hydrosaurs and none of them are Parasaurolophus, despite Parasaurolophus being like the only one from the books. Sinornithosaurus, another small, possibly venomous dinosaur. Well, I know in real life it probably wasn't, but I could definitely see them using that. Again, I don't know much about it in the actual books either, but I wouldn't be surprised if venomous there. Could be a cool addition. Therizinosaurus, another really cool addition, honestly, absolutely horrifying animal, and would be cool to see how they use Utahraptor, basically the representative of feathered large theropods. Honestly, would also be really cool, and if there was one of the books set in a more polar environment, then definitely be cool to do a film on that. And Ankylosaurus I also couldn't find much on, but also would be a really cool animal to see. Carcharodontosaurus, I'm in love with this thing basically, and probably was the first animal I saw from Primitive War, alongside the concept art I used in the back because I just think it's cool, but yeah. Carnotaurus, I mean, it's my boy Carnotaurus. You already know that. It would honestly be awesome to see in a film, and honestly just would be really interesting, just especially with how we believe Carnotaurus would have hunted by chasing down things that were smaller than it and then basically swallowing it whole, or just catching it in its jaws. Anyways, Gallimimus I think could be pretty cool. Maybe even have it attack someone, who knows. Giraffatitan, I'm surprised it's the only sauropod. I think it would be cool to see some other ones too, but maybe even like Spinosaurus for a smaller sauropod, or even other large ones like maybe Sauroposeidon or Argentinosaurus, because we know Rebirth isn't even that thing. Maiasaura I also think is a pretty interesting creature, though I don't know exactly how it's used because I also couldn't find much on it. Pachyrhinosaurus is another one I think would just be really cool to see, especially with some of the concept art I've seen of it, kind of giving it more of a feathery look, which I think just looks nice, kind of like feathery, quilly, and then also just has a really cool head shape, I guess. I was about to say head sculpt and shape at the same time, but anyways. Next we have Pachycephalosaurus, another really cool one. Also couldn't find too much on this one. Saurophaganax, which is probably the most random creature in here, because most of these are from the Cretaceous. I think Saurophaganax is one of the few from the Jurassic. I think it and Giraffatitan are like the only ones. So, yeah. Saurophaganax, I know it's dubious now, but kind of don't care. I love Saurophaganax. It would be really cool to see. Also could find very little on this one. I didn't even find anything on the wiki with it. We have Suchomimus, which also, from what I can see, it may have attacked a hippopotamus in one scene, so I know Chaos Theory already did that, though I think it'd be pretty cool to see in this franchise as well. And then those last two, again, I'm not going to talk about since I just needed to fill this out to make it look good. Needed two more to include, and those are random ones. Though I am going to use this as an opportunity to put two creatures that I think would be cool to put in there. So first, we have Deinonychus, which the only issue I can see with this is that it could be a little bit too similar to Therizinosaurus, but I feel like it could be used differently enough, maybe have it be more semi-aquatic and more like in the marshes and swamps, and then also maybe give it, maybe just, I guess, I don't know exactly how they would design it. From what I can see, the Therizinosaurus is more of like a white color, so maybe give it darker feathers. Honestly, would be really cool. I also, again, I'm going to do a review on Rebirth at some point, and I will talk about it more there. Kind of how I think it'd be cool to see Deinonychus there, but maybe give it kind of more like, make it look like it's losing or missing some feathers, and just, there's a lot of crazy things you could do with Deinonychus. It's a bizarre animal, and it could be really cool. Anyways, next we have Mape, or really any Megaraptor. That's honestly, just seeing how this franchise is and, how violent, we'll just say, I am surprised no Megaraptors are present. I honestly don't know when this was written. Maybe it was before we knew that Megaraptors were ridiculously cool, but yeah, really surprised none of them appear, especially since maybe it's because there are so many medium theropods with Utahraptor, Carnotaurus, and Cryolophosaurus, and maybe another one would be a little bit too much. But hey, I still don't care. I would love to see Mape or even some other Megaraptor get a appearance in a film. So yeah. Again, that's pretty much all I have to say on Primitive War. Again, I just have a lot of hope for this film. Cannot wait for it to come out. Can't wait to see more. Honestly, one thing that they're doing very well, and I hope that they don't do, is reveal too much from the trailers. I think what they're doing is good. Maybe only give us one or two more trailers, and don't show us much more there. And also, if there's some species they haven't revealed yet, don't reveal them. Unless there's like, if there's like maybe like 3 or 4 more, maybe reveal like 1 or 2 more, and then that's it. Just keep some things a surprise. Just, again, don't follow the same issues at Rebirth, which it seems this film has been doing very well to not do the same as. Honestly, again, there's a few designs I find a bit questionable, and I definitely need to see some of them more, but generally, I think this film is great, and I just, honestly, really like it so far. Anyways, what are your guys' thoughts on this film? Is there any creatures you would want to see added? Is there any creatures that you'd like to see adapted better? Is there any creatures that I just got, like, information completely wrong on because I don't really know anything? Is there anything you think I should know about Primitive War first? Just, again, what are your thoughts on this? I'm probably going to do some more research into Primitive War a little bit more before I make my next video, hopefully. But, anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one, and goodbye!